Hey, I'm your host, Jen Wheeler, and this is the Healthy Her podcast. I'm a teacher, author, and foodie who went from being addicted to sugar, skipping meals, and struggling to get in control of my eating, to someone who is 10 kilos down, eats all the yummy foods without restriction, and is finally in control of my hunger. I'm obsessed with helping other health-conscious women ditch the confusion and overwhelm so they can cultivate healthy eating habits and truly thrive. The Healthy Her podcast was created to give you real talk about healthy eating, as well as easy, actionable tips that fit seamlessly into your busy lifestyle. I'm not just your host. Think of me as your healthy eating hype gal, your personal cheerleader as we chat all things healthy eating, weight loss, and mindset mastery, so you can become the healthiest, happiest version of you. So if you're ready to ditch the guilt, reclaim your confidence, and unlock the very best version of you, then you're in the right place. So let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Healthy Her podcast. I know for me that when I personally choose to listen to our podcast, it's like a little moment of self-care. It's a little moment for me to work on myself, on my personal development, and also to do a little check-in with myself. So you are probably listening to this episode on your drive to work. It might be on your morning walk. It might be while you're cleaning the house. And I just want to say a massive thank you for choosing to listen to the Healthy Her podcast, to up-level yourself, for a moment of self-care, and also to work on your self-development as well. I'm so grateful for you tuning in every single week and for all of the reviews, the new follows, the new subscribes, and I just absolutely adore this entire community because I feel so strongly that it is full of incredible, strong, like-minded women that are just showing up for themselves and working on themselves every single day. Okay, let's jump into today's episode. Today's episode is about the most powerful pivots that you can make for healthy eating and weight loss right now. So these are things that you can literally at the end of this episode, even open up your notes section on your phone and make some notes. So you can leave this episode with lots of practical tips and advice, because that is always one of my goals with this podcast, is that you can take away tips and advice. It's not just fluff. I know you're super busy, you're juggling a million things, and you need real practical solutions to make healthy eating and weight loss a whole lot easier for you with your busy, hectic lifestyle. Now, what I'm sharing in today's episode is the top changes and the top pivot that successful women make when they are able to not only reach their weight loss goals, but also master their healthy eating for the long term and create a long-lasting, healthy relationship with food. Now, this has come from my own personal experience. It's also come from the hundreds of women that I've worked with through the Healthy Eating Hype Gal membership, through my online course, through my meal plans. And it's these same pivots that come up over and over again. And it's really, really important that you focus on making these pivots and changes instead of focusing on all of the wrong things that don't actually work. So I want you to think about something as you're listening to today's episode. You get a choice. Okay, you're going to get a choice. Now, you can listen to these, like I've got 9 tips here. I'll try and keep it to 9. I can't promise that I won't add another one in towards the end, but I'm going to try and keep it at these 9 pivots and changes that you need to make for long-lasting healthy eating and weight loss success. So you're going to get a choice, okay? You're going to get a choice that after listening to this podcast episode, you can listen to all those things and make a change. Or you can listen to all of these things that I'm going to talk to you about today, and you can finish the episode, go about your day, and then go back to doing your old ways of doing things. So I really, really hope that this episode is a moment of change for you, an opportunity to pivot, to try something different, to go down a different pathway. And that is something that I always talk about when it comes to the girls that join my membership, is that you have to choose different for yourself. If skipping meals, cutting carbs, going keto, going hungry, like trying to drink more water so you don't have to eat, like if you're doing all these things and it's not working, it's time to choose something different. So that's what this episode is all about. So I'm going to give you these 9 pivots and changes that successful women make when they master their weight loss and they master their healthy eating. And like I said, this is coming from personal experience myself. This is my personal experience, and it's also with the hundreds of women I have worked with, and it's the same things that come up over and over again. So I really want to bring these to you and have this conversation with you today so that by the end of this episode, you get a choice. You can go, okay, yeah, I'm going to really take those things on board and I'm going to start to pivot and shift my focus on things, or I'm going to go back to my old ways and just stick with all those things and be stuck in that dieting cycle and not get to where I want to go. So like I said, at the end of the episode today, you will get a choice as to what you do with these pivots and these changes that I'm going to share with you. Okay, the big one. Number one, the biggest pivot or change that you can make right now for healthy eating and weight loss is this. You need to, and this is what women that have been successful do as well, they adjust their goal timeline. So unfortunately, as women, we have this idea that weight loss should look and feel and happen in a certain order and in a certain way and on a certain calories and with a certain amount of exercise. But unfortunately, it never, ever happens in the way and in the steps that we want it to. So successful women adjust their goal timeline. They accept that it's not going to happen overnight. So they accept that it's taken me years to get to this point with my food and my diet and how I feel about my body and eating good and bad foods and all of those kind of things. And they accept that these changes aren't going to happen in 2 weeks, in 4 weeks, in 6 weeks. It might take months. It might even take years, but they are ditching the restrictive timeline and just accepting that it's going to take as long as it's going to take. And by doing that, they've stopped focusing on that end goal and they're just focusing on the process of showing up for themselves every single day. So number one is just ditching those timelines. Like, let it take as long as it needs to take, because when you do that, the results that you get and the changes that you make to your mindset, to your habits, to your diet are long lasting. Anything that's short term, that's a quick fix, is not going to last. And yes, it can take a little bit longer, but what if it takes a little bit longer this time and you finally get to that place that you want to be in and you never have to go back again? If you look at it that way, it becomes a totally worth it experience, does that? Totally worth it process. So ditch your timeline and let it take as long as it needs to take. Okay, number two, the other change and pivot that you need to make right now, you need to show up imperfect and messy. This is what successful women do. They show up on their messy days. They show up when they can't do everything perfectly. And that's something that's not talked about enough. And it's because that as women, we're taught that to eat healthy, we have to eat perfectly. And that's not the case. You can still make an effort, work towards your goals, show up for yourself, and you can still do it at 20 or 30%. And so some days these women would show up imperfect and messy. So on some days, their best might look like 10%, but they did something. On another day, it might look like 100% and everything was perfect and their exercise was great and their eating was great. And then on another day, they might have only been able to do 50%. But again, that small percentage is always better than nothing. So these women show up imperfect and they show up messy and they just do it anyway. Okay, number three with the pivots that successful women make is they've stopped the search for the fastest and the best way to get to their end goal. It still just blows my mind. Like, I can literally jump on my social media in the morning and there will be 10 posts about how can I lose weight fast, or something like how can I drop 2 dress sizes by November because I've got my friend's wedding on. And these things are just not realistic. This is a key thing that these women have stopped doing. They have stopped searching for the fastest, the quickest, the shortest way to get there. Because we've all talked about this, the short-term things don't work. Or if they do work, you don't understand how you got there, how you got your results. And when the thing ends, you don't know how to replicate those things. So whether it's a fast or a challenge or something that you signed up for, you can only be perfect for a certain amount of time. And that's the thing with these kind of programs, is that they'll get you to be perfect for a certain amount of time, which most people can. If you go, right, for 6 weeks, I'm going to eat really well, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to do all the things, it's going to be great. Okay, what happens after 6 weeks? What happens when work gets busy and your kids get sick, or something's happening in your personal life or your family life, or like things going on with your friends and everything just falls apart? You need to learn to not always focus on the quickest and the fastest way to get there. You need to work out how to do it long lasting for the long term, and also do it with your busy, hectic lifestyle, because that is the key to lasting success. All right, number 4. So these are all pivots I want you to focus on. Remember what I said, you get a choice. So you get a choice to either listen to these and go back to your old ways of doing things, or you can start to choose different for yourself. Okay, number 4, this is a really, really big one. And it is to work on your mindset as much as your food. So the women that are in the Healthy Eating Hype Gal membership, yes, they are doing the meal plans. Yes, they are following calories. Yes, they are doing all of those things. But they are also showing up for our coaching calls, and they are also working on their mindset around food. And in my personal experience, and also with all of the amazing, incredible women that I have worked with, you cannot have one without the other. You just can't. You can follow the perfect meal plan, but if you don't understand and deal with the fact that you're overeating every night after dinner, or that you're restricting your food so badly that you binge eat on chocolate because you never allow yourself to have it, that's the mindset work that you have to do. And the women that are successful do both together. You can't have one without the other. And it was so true for me. Yes, I followed my meal plan and I did my deficit and all of those kind of things, but I also had to deal with all of these crappy habits and all of these things that I was doing all this time that were holding me back, all things that I completely and utterly was not even aware of the fact that I was doing these things. And when you become aware of these things and you start to change your mindset and the way that you look at food, for me, it was very like, oh, good and bad food. Well, that's a good food and that's a bad food. So for me, I really had to change my mindset around the fact that, you know what, all food is just food. It's me. I was associating a feeling to that food. So for me, I was going, well, I can't eat cake because that's a bad food and that is bad for me and that is going to make me gain weight. Now, it's just a cupcake at the end of the day, right? But I was associating a feeling to that food. And this is all the mindset work that has to be done, because once I'd worked that out and I'd realized that and I took the feelings away from food, I can now enjoy a cupcake or a slice of cake and I have no guilt. And I know that it's not a bad food. And I know that I can eat all foods in moderation, that like nothing is off the table. That's why it is so, so important to make that pivot and to make that change right now, that you need to be prepared to work on not only your food and what you eat and what you put in your mouth, but also what's going on in your mind and working on improving your mindset around healthy eating and weight loss. And like I said, it takes time because these habits and these beliefs have been inbuilt in you for a very, very long time. So it's going to take time to change. But if you accept that's part of your winning strategy and your process for success, then you'll find it a whole lot easier to focus in on your mindset as well. Okay, number 5, the other pivot and change that you can make with your healthy eating and weight loss right now is to stop comparing yourself. Now, you can follow whatever diet someone else is doing. You can follow their workout plans. And I can 110% tell you, you will never look exactly like them. You just won't. You won't have their legs. You won't have their arms. You won't have their abs. You won't have their stomach. You won't be or look like them, because every body is different and every female body is different. And we all carry weight differently. We all have different muscle structure, all of those kind of things. So a big thing that you can do right now is just to stop comparing yourself to other people. And that's a big pivot that successful women make, is because they stop focusing on others and they start focusing in on themselves. They start focusing on, hey, you know what? I don't really care what she's doing. I'm going to start showing up as the healthiest, happiest, most confident version of myself. And that is where the true magic happens, because you start focusing on you, you start staying in your own lane, and you start to see the results of your effort, because you're spending less time focusing on what everyone else is doing, what everyone else is eating, how everyone else is moving, how everyone else is getting their results and, making their healthy changes, and they just start focusing on themselves. Are you ready to step into a vibrant community of health-conscious women where your journey to helping feel easy begins? Welcome to the Healthy Eating Hype Gal community, your ultimate destination for mastering your relationship with food and embracing a healthy lifestyle. As a busy working mum who's lost 10 kilos, I've been through it all and I understand the struggle. That's why I'm here to teach you the exact steps and tools I use to lose weight, conquer my mindset and thrive, all while juggling the demands of everyday life. Say goodbye to no more confusing fad diets or overwhelming nutrition advice. In this community, I'll guide you through the maze of weight loss and healthy eating and explain it to you in a way that finally makes sense. From easy, family-friendly meal plans to my exclusive calorie deficit quick guide, monthly masterclasses, plus so much more, so you can finally make healthy eating an achievable lifestyle without restriction. It's time to ditch the confusion and overwhelm for good. Join today and kickstart your journey to a healthier, happier you. There's no perfect time to start. Let's make your wellness dreams a reality. Okay, number 6. Now, this is something obviously I personally had to deal with as well. And I think it's a really big part of this whole healthy eating mastery process. And it's that you need to be prepared to be a beginner when it comes to healthy eating and weight loss. I think of it, and I always relate it to riding a bike. When you're a kid and you had to learn how to ride a bike, you didn't just look at the bike, jump on and take off and know exactly how to pedal and steer at the same time and to keep the handlebars straight. Healthy eating and weight loss is the same thing. It is a skill that you need to learn. And if you go into these things thinking, hey, you know what? This is something new. I'm totally clueless. I really don't know what I'm doing, but I'm prepared to learn. That's when your mindset, you're not going into it with this, well, I have to do this perfectly and I have to do it spot on and everything has to be exactly right. And you go into it with a different mindset. You go into it thinking, hang on a minute, I remember what Jen said about riding the bike. This is just like me learning to ride a bike. I need to learn these skills. And it's one of those things, if you're prepared to be a beginner and you're prepared to learn these things, the process becomes a whole lot easier. So whether that's working out your calories or learning about a deficit, or it might be joining a gym, again, you have to be a beginner at those things. I know it's really easy to look out on social media and see other people succeeding with all of these things and they make it look so easy. You know, those people have had to learn those things. They have all been a beginner once. They've all had to learn those skills and they just keep learning, they just keep practicing and they just keep showing up. Okay, number 7. And this is one that I had to do myself many, many, many times. And I feel like it's something that we need to talk about more, especially as women. So number 7 is you need to be willing to restart and reset and re-go again as often as you need to. I feel like in this space, it's this wellness space of, well, you do it once, you do it perfectly, and that's it. No, you don't. You know, you might go really well for a few weeks and then something comes up and you get really busy and you sort of fall off track again. And that's part of this process of learning how to have a healthy lifestyle for the long term. You have to mess up. You know, you have to mess up and you have to make mistakes. And so you have to be willing to restart, not go, well, I'm a failure and, you know, like I've messed this up and I can't do it again and I'll start again in 6 months' time. You just restart. You go, okay, today wasn't great. Didn't do this. I didn't do that. Didn't go for my walk. Overate on the couch. Okay, great. So what? Just pick it up and restart again the next day. And that is one really, really pivotal change that you can make right now. It's what the girls do in the membership. It's what I have done. If you mess up and things don't go to plan, don't wait for perfect to then start again. Okay. Pick up literally at your next meal. Okay. Don't even say, I'll wait till tomorrow and then I'll restart again. No, if you've had a bad morning, start again after lunch. Okay. If you've had a not so great dinner, go, okay, well, I'm going to start after dinner. What can I do after that? You always get a choice to restart and reset. And I really want to normalize this as part of the process. So for me, you know, I had to restart and reset and do that quite a few times until I didn't have to do that again. It just became so sort of second nature just to kind of go, okay, well, you know what, today wasn't great. So I'll just pick up and start again at my next meal or the next day. The more that you do that and the more often that you do that and you just get into that mindset of, I'll just pick up and restart again, the gap becomes less and you're also restarting from a better place every time you do that. But it is a part of the process and you do have to do, I guess we could kind of call them they're not full back to square one and starting again. They're just like little mini restarts or little mini refocuses to get us back on track and get us moving towards our goals and to the place that we want to be. So it is a part of the process. And I really want to encourage you to make that pivot and to make that change. Okay, number 8. Now, this one might sting a little bit. And I was so guilty of this too. But number 8, pivot and change that you can make and that successful women make is they stop blaming other people for where they are at. So they ditch the blame game and they start facing up to where things are actually So what I mean by that is that often when things don't work the way that we want them to, so we didn't hit our weight loss goal or we didn't follow the program or the challenge that we want to do, we start blaming others. So we go, okay, well, it must have been my coach then. It was my coach. It was my kids. My kids were sick, so it must be their fault. It was work. Like I had all of these meetings and it was work's fault that I couldn't get to my goal. It's a big thing and it's confronting. It's doing that mindset and that inner work is that you have to stop blaming other people for where you are at. And it is a big change that I made. And it's just a change that you can make, a pivot that you can make right now is that you can accept responsibility for where you are currently at, the effort that you are currently making, and you can stop blaming others and stop looking for the answers outside of yourself because everything that you need is inside of you already. And that's where that ditching this blame game thing comes in, is that you stop saying, well, it's my kid's fault or my work's fault or my partner's fault. And like, it's my coach's fault or it's that program's fault. Or you start taking responsibility for yourself and you realize that you have everything within you and you stop looking at outside source to blame because you're not where you want to be and because you're not achieving the results and getting to the point that you want. It is uncomfortable having to confront yourself with that. And that's why a lot of people don't. They'll continue in this cycle for years of just blaming other people because, well, that's easier, isn't it? It's easier for me to say, you know what? I didn't reach my weight loss goals in the last 3 months because it was work, because it was my kids, because there was something outside of me that didn't make it happen. So if you can confront that ugly side of yourself that is always blaming others, then it is a really key pivot and change that you can make. And it will literally fast rocket you forward to where you want to be because you'll stop focusing on others and you'll start focusing on the things that are inside you to make the changes that you want. Okay, number 9, and I think this is my last one. Like I said, I've tried to keep them really short and sweet so that these are changes and pivots that you can make literally right now. As you finish listening to this episode, like I said, if you did open up your notes folder, if you're making notes of these, I encourage you, if you find an episode and it's a real trigger for you and it's like all those aha moments in it, go back and listen to it again because often the first time you'll soak it in and the second time you go, you'll have that real sort of connection and engagement with it. So always go back and listen to episodes if you need that extra support or that extra guidance because it can really help to get you unstuck and to move you forward as well. Okay, number 9. So these are just to recap. So all of these things are all of the most powerful pivots that you can make for your healthy eating and weight loss right now. So I'm just going to whiz through them really quickly and then I will get to our last one, number 9. So number 1, adjust your goal and timeline. Let it take as long as it needs to take. Number 2, show up imperfect and messy. So whatever you're working on, whether it's a goal in the gym, whether it's drinking more water, whether it's getting more exercise in, whether it's sticking to your calorie deficit, show up imperfect and messy. Number 3, stop searching, Googling, looking for the fastest, bestest, quickest way to lose weight and eat healthy. Think about this, right? If it existed, wouldn't we all be doing it? Like that's the reality. If there was this super quick, easy way to lose weight and keep it off and be healthy and happy and have a good relationship with food forever, wouldn't we all be doing it? So think about that. Number 4, you've got to work on your food as much as your mindset. You cannot have one without the other. You can work on your food, you can follow a challenge or a program, you can get to the end of it and you've got no idea how you got there. And you've got then no idea how to deal with a roadblock or, when life gets busy or all of those kind of things. So you really need to work on your mindset as much as your food. Number 5, stop comparing yourself to other women. Focus on you, focus on showing up as the healthiest, happiest version of you. And that will set you up for absolute success. Number 6, be prepared to be a beginner. Think about riding the bike. So in those moments, I want you to think about this podcast. I want you to think in those moments, hang on, remember what Jed said? It was like riding a bike. So I have to learn this thing. I have to take the time and I have to learn this thing. And it's back to that thing that even with riding a bike, you learn it, but you don't do it perfectly straight away. You might fall off, you might graze your knee, you might run into the fence. These things are part of the process. So be prepared to be a beginner. And like I said, think about you learning to ride a bike as a kid because it is exactly the same. Number 7, be willing to restart. Like do these little mini restarts and refocuses over and over again until it just becomes second nature. Number 8, now this was the confronting one, remember? Ditch the blame. No one else is to blame for where you are at right now. It all comes down to you, and everything that you need and everything that you want is literally inside of you. So stop blame game, stop saying it's someone else's fault, because it all comes down to you and the actions that you are taking every single day. Okay, let's jump on to number 9. In my own weight loss journey, like when I lost 10 kilos and things like that, I spent so much time looking for the answers side of myself. And it comes back to that mindset work and that blame game. And I didn't want to realize, and I didn't want to confront the fact that, hey, you know what? It was actually me, the things that I was doing, my daily habits, all of those kind of things, that I was actually the one that was stopping me from getting to where I wanted to go, and from having that good relationship with food, from being at a healthy weight, a comfortable weight where my clothes were fitting. And that's part of the process, that you have to deal with that. And so number 9 is a big thing that I did. And it's something that, the one thing I love about the membership is that when the girls post in the group, in the words that they use and the way that they show up, you can hear that they're doing this one thing. And this one thing is that they are taking their power, stop looking at everyone else. They stop comparing. They stop looking outside of themselves. They stop focusing on what someone else is eating and what someone else is doing. And they take their power, and they realize that they're not powerless. And I know that as women, because our lifestyles are so hectic, we feel powerless some of the times. We're like, there's just so much stuff to do, and I've got work, and I've got kids, and I've got to make dinner, and there's washing, and I haven't done that, and the house is a mess. And we often feel powerless. But when you realize you actually have way more power than you believe, everything changes. And that is something that successful women do, is they take their power back. They realize that they are in control of their happiness, of what they eat, and they ditch the blame, and they just start to focus in on themselves and realize that they do have the power to change if they are willing to accept the things that they have been doing, that they can take back their power. They can actually make the changes that they want. And honestly, it's the best feeling ever. And when you get to that point and you realize that, hey, you know what? I'm not actually powerless. I'm not powerless. This is someone else's fault that I'm in this position. It comes down to me, and I get to take control. I get to take back my power. Again, not going to be perfect. It's going to be messy. It might require a few changes. It might require you to be a beginner, all of the things that we talked about previously, but you can take back your power, and you can take back your control, and you don't have to feel powerless in this process of improving your wellness and taking care of yourself. Like I said, what you do with this information today is completely up to you, but I strongly suggest go back to your notes folder, see the notes that you took. Promise you, these are the lasting mindset shifts that you need to make for long-lasting healthy eating, and also to reach your weight loss goals. I hope that you loved today's episode. I love. I'm so passionate about this stuff. I know you can probably tell by my voice, but I'm so passionate about having these conversations with women, because I truly wish that these were the conversations that someone had had with me. I wish someone had sat me down and said, hey, Jen, these are the 9 things that you really should be focusing on, and you need to stop doing this, and this, because those things are a waste of time, and you really should focus your energy on these things, because that is what will create the healthiest, happiest, most confident version of you. And who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want to feel healthy and happy and confident and show up as the best version of themselves every day? We all want that. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to the show so you don't miss an episode. Leave a review. It means the absolute world to me. And I'll see you all in our next episode of the Healthy Her podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the Healthy Her podcast. If you enjoyed today's chat and found it helpful, hitting that follow or subscribe button would be amazing, because your support means the world to me. Come connect with me on Instagram @TheActiveBod for your daily dose of inspiration and for loads of new easy meal ideas. Take care and keep thriving. See you next week.